Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're diving deep into mind management for creative work.
Oh, cool.
We're using those excerpts that you sent over from David Kadavy's book.
Okay.
Mind management, not time management. You know, it seems like you're someone who wants to get a lot done, but you also really value doing like really high quality creative work.
Right.
So I think this is going to be a really interesting deep dive for you.
Awesome. I'm really excited to dive in.
Yeah. It's really interesting stuff.
Yeah, especially our whole culture is about being so productive.
Right.
And mind management, not time management, it really offers a different way to think about it.
Yeah, like just to start,
Yeah.
The book starts out by talking about how just trying to cram more and more tasks into each hour isn't always the best strategy,
Right.
especially for creative work.
It really isn't. It's like, you have that old saying, work expands.
Yeah.
To fill the time.
Yeah.
So you think you're being productive because you have your schedule packed, but then you end up doing like less quality work because you're spreading yourself too thin.
Totally, yeah.
We're just not able to focus.
You're not able to go deep. And, the author, Kadavy, he even admits that he used to do like crazy things to try to save time.
What kinds of things?
Like, he worked on perfecting his no-look elevator button press. So
Oh, wow.
He didn't even have to look just to save like a second.
Interesting.
And, he calls this obsession with time worship.
Oh, okay.
Basically, it's like making time your ultimate God value and letting that kind of dictate all your decisions.
Wow, that's really interesting. And it makes me think about like all these little ways that we do that,
Yeah.
Like people who are always late.
Right.
Because they don't want to waste time.
Right.
Being early or
like, I always think about like waiters who are trying to like rush you out of the restaurant.
Right, get you out of there.
Because they need that table.
Right.
It's that like...
Time is money.
Yeah. Time is money. Underlying anxiety about time.
Exactly.
Yeah, I never really thought about that before. But
yeah.
So like, how does he propose that we kind of get out of this time worship trap?
Well, so his main argument is that creative work, it needs a different kind of management.
Okay.
It's not about just going fast. It's more about like creating the right space in your mind to be able to have valuable thoughts.
I like that.
So it's really mind management, not just time management.
Yeah, that's such an important distinction.
It is.
It's really not about like just racing against the clock, but it's more about like nurturing your mind to actually be more creative.
Exactly. And it's about that shift in your thinking from, like how fast can I do this?
Right.
To like how can I create the best conditions for good work?
Yeah, I like that a lot.
And that's really where his 4 stages of creativity come in.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so the 4 stages, they're preparation, incubation, illumination, and verification.
Yes.
And he emphasizes that, like, they don't necessarily happen in a linear order.
Not at all. And a really good example of that
is
the story of Paul McCartney and how he wrote Yesterday.
Oh, okay.
He literally had the melody come to him in a dream.
Wow.
So that's like classic incubation, like where your subconscious is working on it.
Wow.
And then, bam, you have illumination.
Wow, that's so cool.
Out of nowhere.
Yes.
And it seems like it's out of nowhere, but really your subconscious has been working on it.
Right. So, like, how did those other stages, like the preparation and verification, how do those blend?
So preparation is really about like getting all the information, immersing yourself in the topic, laying the groundwork.
Okay.
And then, you have that magic of incubation, illumination. And then you move into verification. And that's when you're like, okay, does this actually work? Is this a good idea?
Yeah. So you have that like flash of insight, but you still need to like...
You still have to do the work.
Do the work.
Yeah, you have to test it out and refine it.
Right. To actually bring it into reality.
Right, exactly. Because you can't just like wait for the inspiration to strike. You have to like make it happen, right?
Yeah. You have to cultivate that. And yeah, this is great.
It is.
It's making me realize, I think, in my own creative process, I don't think I give myself enough time for like...
For incubation.
For incubation, yeah. I'm so focused on just getting to the next thing that I'm not really giving myself the space to like...
To think.
And like let my mind wander.
That's so important. And that's really where like knowing your creative rhythms comes in.
Yeah. Okay. Tell me more about that. Like this creative sweet spot. Like what even is that and how do you figure out when that is?
So to understand that, you have to think about the prefrontal cortex.
Okay.
So that's the part of your brain that does like planning and decision-making
right.
and critical thinking.
Okay.
But all of that, even though it's very important,
yeah,
it can get in the way of creative insight.
So, like, do you have to shut off that part of your brain to be creative?
You don't have to shut it off completely.
Okay.
But it helps if it can. Like, relax a little.
Okay.
So it turns out that when your prefrontal cortex is a little bit sleepy, like maybe first thing in the morning,
right,
you can be more open to having, like, these unexpected connections.
Oh, that's really interesting. So, like,
yeah,
my morning brain, when I'm, like, kind of...
Yes, your groggy morning brain.
That could actually be a good thing.
It could be a really good thing.
For creative work?
Yes.
Wow.
And that's why they call it the creative sweet spot.
Oh, okay.
Because it's that time when you are the most likely to be creative.
Right, and it's different for everyone.
It is different for everyone, so you have to kind of figure out when yours is.
Pay attention to your own...
rhythms.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so... we've been talking about this, like, creative sweet spot and, like, figuring out when that is. But what about, like, when life throws you curveballs?
Right.
Like, what happens when, you know...
when chaos happens.
Yeah, when there's chaos and it totally messes up, like, your schedule and...
Right. He actually addresses that.
Okay.
Pretty directly.
Yeah.
He talks about creating in chaos.
Okay.
And he doesn't just talk about, like... surviving the chaos.
Right.
He actually thinks that you can, like, have breakthroughs.
Oh, wow.
During chaos.
Okay, so it's, like, not just about, like, getting through it.
It's not just about surviving it.
But actually, like...
yeah, it's like, it can actually be beneficial.
Using it.
Yeah, using it.
Yeah, I remember reading about how he was in Panama City and he was dealing with, like, visa issues,
right,
and a family health crisis.
Oh, wow.
And a jackhammer.
All at the same time.
Blaring outside his window.
Oh, my gosh.
Like, that's talk about...
sounds like a nightmare.
Like, just, like, a recipe for, like...
it's like a creativity obstacle course.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, but his point is that these challenges are inevitable.
Right.
They're going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's when you have these disruptions that you... often are forced to think outside the box.
Yeah.
You have to be more resourceful and resilient.
Yeah. I like that perspective. So instead of looking at it like as the enemy.
Yeah, exactly.
Of creativity.
It can actually like help you.
Yeah. Like a catalyst almost.
Yeah. It's like shaking up the snow globe.
Yeah.
And seeing what new patterns emerge.
Yeah. That's a good analogy.
I like that one.
So one of the things that he talks about to like use in times of chaos is
mental state tagging.
Mental state tagging.
Yeah.
So that's where you're considering not just the task.
It's not just about the task.
But the mental state that you need to be in to actually do it.
Yeah, because you're not always going to be in like peak creative mode.
Right.
There are going to be times when you're drained, distracted.
Right.
Just not up for it.
Right. You're not going to want to be doing like really heavy lifting.
Exactly.
So instead of trying to like you know, write a symphony when you're feeling burnt out, you might just...
do something else. Yeah. Like organize your files or something.
Or do like research or something like that.
Yeah, something that doesn't require quite so much mental energy.
Yeah, just be like, okay with...
be where you are.
Where you're at.
Yeah, exactly.
Without feeling like you have to, like...
you don't have to be on all the time.
Be on all the time.
Right, and that's something that he really had to learn with like his family situation and everything going on.
And the jackhammer.
And the jackhammer, yes.
So he was able to use these techniques to like actually still get work done.
To still make progress.
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't.
Even if it wasn't like his
like peak creative work.
Right.
He could still do other things.
Still be productive.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
It is.
And it also makes me think about how important it is to like have a system for capturing and processing all that. Like
the creative input.
Creative input. Yeah. And he calls this
the creative cascade.
Creative cascade. Yeah. So tell me more about that.
Okay. So imagine, you know, you've got all this creative input coming at you.
Right.
It's like a stream. Thoughts, observations, articles you read, quotes, whatever it is.
Right.
So the creative cascade is a way to capture that. And process it.
Right. So you're not just like...
you're not just like, you know...
writing it on sticky notes.
Yeah, you're not just randomly writing it down. You actually have a system.
Oh, okay.
So it's like having like filters.
Okay.
To like sort through everything and get to the like...
get the good stuff.
The gems, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So he says like you should have different inboxes for the different stages.
Yeah.
So you might have a notebook for capturing ideas.
Yeah.
And then you might have like a digital note-taking app for organizing it.
Right.
And then like a project management system to actually turn it into action.
Wow, that's really
So everything has a place.
A place, like a designated place for each part of that journey.
Yeah, exactly.
So it doesn't get lost.
It doesn't get lost
in the shuffle.
Yes, exactly.
That's cool. So one of the main things that he uses in his system is
a pocket notebook.
A pocket notebook.
Yeah, he carries it with him everywhere.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, and he uses it to jot down whatever, like to-do items, random observations.
Right.
He might overhear a conversation.
Okay.
Write that down.
Right. So it's like his...
Yeah, it's like a...
external brain.
An external hard drive for his brain.
That's really cool.
I like that.
And then he goes back and like...
So during his weekly review, he'll go through it and decide what to do.
Okay.
So some things might get transferred to like his digital system.
Okay.
Other things might get added to a project.
Right.
And then some things might just stay in the notebook to simmer.
Okay, so it doesn't all have to be like...
It doesn't all have to happen right away.
Yeah, like acted upon immediately.
Right. It could just...
Or it can like...
simmer.
Yeah, simmer. That's a good
I like that
analogy.
Yeah.
So you have this creative input and it's going through your creative cascade.
Yeah.
But like, how do you make sure that it actually turns into action?
That's a good question.
Because I know I'm really good at like, getting ideas down.
Like, we all have those notebooks full of ideas we never do.
They never happen.
Right. That's where task triggers come in.
Oh, okay.
So it's all about creating reliable, context-specific triggers that will like prompt you to take action.
Okay, so it's like a cue.
It is a cue, yeah.
To actually,
it's not that much.
Yeah, to like remind you.
To remind you.
And he tells this funny story about how when he was a kid, he would always forget his backpack at school. So he realized that he needed like a visual reminder.
Yeah, something to like...
Like something that would make him think.
Yeah.
Don't forget your backpack.
Right, like as he was leaving the classroom.
Yeah, when he was walking out the door, I feel like we've all been there.
We've all been there.
Where you get to the car, you're like, oh, I forgot that.
I forgot that thing.
Yeah.
So task triggers are really about like freeing up your mental energy.
Hey.
You're not having to remember everything.
Right. You're not using
you're outsourcing
willpower to like remember.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's cool.
And you can focus on the task at hand.
Right.
Because you know that you're going to have that reminder.
Right. So what makes a good task trigger?
A good task trigger. Well, he says it should be reliable.
Okay.
Context specific.
Okay.
Easy to implement. And attached to the desired action.
Okay. So it's not just like...
Right. It has to actually work for you.
Yeah. Any random thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have like an example of one?
Yeah. So he talks about how he writes podcast intro scripts.
Oh, interesting.
And he breaks it down into these smaller chunks.
Okay.
So he'll like jot down some initial ideas.
Right.
And then he'll come back to them later.
Okay.
And flesh them out.
Okay.
And then he'll even like set a timer.
Okay.
For 5 minutes to write the script.
Yeah. So that's like using...
It's like time boxing.
Time boxing as a trigger.
Yes.
Yeah, because then you're tricking your brain into thinking.
Right. It's only 5 minutes.
That's not a big deal.
It's not a big deal.
I can do this.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool.
And you're breaking down that bigger task into those smaller chunks.
Right. And it's...
the minimum creative dose in action.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And I know we often think of like constraints as limitations, but he actually says that they can be...
Yeah, he thinks they can be really beneficial.
Okay, how so?
So he points out that having like unlimited freedom can be paralyzing.
Yeah, because then you have too many options.
Yeah, you have too many options.
You don't know where to start.
You're like, what should I do?
Right.
So constraints can actually give you focus.
Yeah, because it forces you to like work within
those parameters and be more creative.
Oh, that's interesting.
It is.
I can see that like if you have a smaller canvas, you have to
make those brush strokes count.
More creative.
Yeah, you can't just do whatever you want.
Yeah, you have to like make decisions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's cool.
And he also talks about standardizing some parts of your process.
Okay, so like having
like a template.
Right, a template or like...
Yeah, so you free up your mental energy to focus on like the unique parts.
Yeah, the creative parts.
Or the creative parts, yeah.
So you're not like...
You're not reinventing the wheel.
Reinventing the wheel every time you
Every time.
Not sit down.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can just like...
Plug and play.
Yeah, get to work.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
And he talks about how he developed his weekly email newsletter, which is called Love Mondays.
Interesting.
And he initially treated it as a pilot project.
Okay.
So he was experimenting with all the different variables.
Right. To figure out
what works best.
The system.
A system, yeah.
Yeah.
And once he had that,
it
was so much easier.
Yeah. So you put any work in up front.
Yeah.
And then it pays off.
It paid off, yeah.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we've talked about mental state tagging, creative cascade, task triggers, the power of constraints.
Right.
Is there anything else that he talks about for like...
There is one more thing.
Managing your energy.
Yeah.
Okay, what is that?
So he talks about creative cycles.
Creative cycles. Okay, is this like syncing up with the moon or something?
It's not quite that esoteric.
Oh, okay.
But it could be something as simple as like having certain days of the week.
Right.
For different kinds of tasks.
Okay.
So he, for example, has Mondays and Tuesdays.
Okay.
For his most intensive work.
Oh, interesting.
He calls them his no meeting days.
Oh, okay.
Because he needs those long,
uninterrupted
blocks of time
to
be able to get into that flow state.
Okay, so it's being like intentional.
Yes, intentional
with like how you
structure your time.
Structure your time.
And recognizing that different tasks need different
kinds of energy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And focus.
And he also talks about like longer cycles, right?
Like seasonal cycles?
Seasonal cycles and
he even talks about taking a whole week.
Oh, wow.
Which he calls a week of want.
Week of want. What's that?
So it's all about disconnecting from work.
Okay.
And giving yourself permission to explore and like pursue passions.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
It does. It's like hitting the reset button.
Okay.
And letting yourself wander.
That sounds great.
It is.
Especially for people who like...
Yeah, for people who get stuck in a rut.
Yeah.
It's like giving yourself permission to play.
Yeah.
To be curious.
Right.
And see what happens.
Yeah, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So he actually... like attributes some of his breakthroughs.
Big breakthroughs doing that. Like what kind of breakthroughs?
So one of them was like the very concept of mind management.
Oh, wow.
And then that led to him elaborating on an app.
Okay.
Which was eventually acquired by Google.
Wow. So that's like a real testament.
It is.
Just like
taking a break, giving yourself that space.
Giving yourself that space, yeah.
That's amazing.
It is.
So you don't always have to be like...
You don't have to be grinded all the time.
Grinding.
Yeah.
So sometimes you get your best ideas when you're relaxed.
Yeah, when you're not even trying.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have daily cycles, weekly cycles, and seasonal cycles.
Yes.
It's like a whole...
It's a symphony of cycles.
Yeah, cycles.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It is, and you can customize them to fit your own needs.
Yeah, to your own
life and your own rhythm.
Rhythms.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what's like so cool about his approach is that it's not like...
It's not about the rules.
A rigid set of rules.
Yeah, it's not one size fits all.
Right.
It's about finding what works for you.
Yeah.
And creating a system that supports you.
That supports you, yeah, that works for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we all have different
energy levels.
Different rhythms and like...
Yeah, and ways of working.
Ways of working. So
the more you understand yourself, the better you can create those conditions.
Yeah, to do your best work.
To do your best work, yeah.
That's awesome.
It is.
It's crazy how much we've talked about from this book so far.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Mind management, not time management. Mm-hmm. We've talked about the limits of time worship.
Right.
The 4 stages of creativity, the creative sweet spot, the creative cascade, task triggers, the power of constraints, even
all those cycles.
Creative cycles, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think there's one thing that I want to go back to because I think it's really like the key to like putting all this into practice.
I think I know what you're going to say. It's about like being aware of your mental state.
Yes.
Right? And how that affects your creativity.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Like, remember when we talked about that story of him being in Panama City?
Yeah.
And there's that jackhammer.
That jackhammer? Oh, yeah.
Outside his window.
And he's trying to be productive.
Yeah, and he's trying to, like, get work done.
Right.
And it was so...
Yeah, like, that's a metaphor, right?
Yeah.
For all of the distractions.
Right. All the mental noise.
Yeah, the mental noise that we deal with every day.
That can just, like, totally derail you.
It can really throw you off.
And
what's interesting is that he's not saying, like, you have to get rid of all distraction.
You can't.
You can't, right.
You can't live in a bubble.
Yeah, you can't live in a bubble.
Yeah.
So it's more about...
It's about managing.
Yeah, managing it.
Right.
And working with your current mental capacity.
Right. I remember he said something like, you know...
Yeah.
You can't always control your external environment.
Right.
But you can control your internal environment.
Yes.
Exactly. Right. And that's where, like...
That's where those techniques like...
Mental state tagging.
Mental state tagging are so helpful.
Yeah. So just being, like, honest with yourself.
About how you're feeling.
How you're feeling. Yeah. And choosing tasks that
match your energy level.
Right. If you're feeling
drained or like...
Yeah. Or overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed?
Yeah.
Then maybe it's not the best time to be. Like...
Right. Maybe you shouldn't try to write a novel right now.
Writing a novel or doing something that's like...
Right. Maybe you should just organize your files.
Super, super demanding.
Yeah, or something simple.
Yeah.
That doesn't require as much mental energy.
Right, just being like okay with...
Be kind to yourself.
Being where you're at.
Yeah, give yourself permission.
Yeah.
To be where you are.
And not feel like you have to be like...
Yeah, you don't have to be on all the time.
On all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and knowing that, like...
And knowing that your mental state is constantly...
It's always changing.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's normal.
And that's where I think, like, the idea of those creative sweet spots.
Creative sweet spots.
Yeah.
Comes in.
It's like, you know, paying attention to when...
Right, to those times when you're...
When you're naturally more creative.
Yeah, when you're feeling more creative.
Yeah.
And then, like, structuring your day to, like...
Right, to take advantage of that.
Take advantage of those times.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you know you get your best ideas in the morning...
Yeah, then protect that time.
Right, protect that time, yeah.
Don't schedule meetings then.
Don't schedule meetings, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you know, like, you hit a slump in the afternoon...
Right, then maybe that's a good time for meetings.
Yeah, or for doing, like, admin work or something.
Exactly. Something that doesn't require a ton of mental energy.
Yeah, it's just being, like, aware of your natural rhythms.
Your natural rhythm. Yeah. I think that's big.
Working with them.
Much more sustainable.
Yeah, it's more sustainable.
Than trying to, like...
Yeah, than trying to force it.
Force it, yeah.
Yeah, when you're not feeling it.
And it's more enjoyable, too.
Yeah, totally.
Because you're not constantly fighting yourself.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think it's also... Like more
kinder to yourself.
Yes, be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
It's okay.
To acknowledge that, like...
To have off days.
Yeah. You're not a machine.
Yeah, you're not a robot.
Yeah.
You're a human.
Yeah. And I think that, like, self-compassion is actually...
It's so important.
Really important.
For creativity.
For creativity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when you're constantly, like, beating yourself up...
Yeah, you're just creating a negative feedback loop.
For not doing enough.
Yeah.
It's just... Like,
yeah. And that can really stifle your creativity.
It can make you feel like...
It can make you feel worse.
Worse, yeah. And, yeah.
Yeah. So be kind to yourself.
So I really appreciate about his approach that. Like, he's acknowledging that...
It's messy.
It's messy, and it's unpredictable.
Yeah. It's not always going to be perfect.
Yeah, so you don't have to try to make it perfect.
You can't control it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Embrace the mess.
Embrace the mess, yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
And remember, sometimes the best discoveries come from those unexpected detours.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, like when his week of want led to...
Mind management.
Mind management, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, sometimes you just need to...
Yeah.
Step away.
And let your mind wander.
Yeah, let your mind wander.
Yeah.
Give yourself permission to play.
Yeah, follow your curiosity.
Yeah.
So, as we wrap up this deal dive
into
mind management, not time management, what's, like, the one key takeaway?
The one key takeaway.
That you would want our listener to, like...
To walk away with.
Walk away with.
I think it's that you have the power.
Okay.
To create the conditions for your best work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it starts with understanding yourself.
Right. Understanding your...
Rhythms.
Your energy levels.
Your energy levels.
Yeah, your mental states.
Mental states, and then building a system that supports all of that.
Yeah, that works for you.
That works for you, yeah.
Yeah, that feels good.
Yeah, that feels sustainable.
Sustainable.
Yeah, and joyful.
And joyful, yeah.
It's not about finding the perfect formula.
Right.
Or following some rigid set of rules.
Yeah, it's about, like...
It's about embracing the journey.
Yeah.
Being kind to yourself.
Right.
And trusting your own creative process.
That's beautifully said.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect note to end on.
I agree.
So thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Into mind management for creative work.
It was a pleasure.
We hope you found some helpful insights that you can use on your own creative journey.
Yes, I hope so.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep creating, and keep diving deep.